My Bubby and Zadie were what we consider religious Jews. What made them religious? They grew up here in the United States in the late 1800s. They came over from Europe. My grandmother was born here in the 1900s. So we're talking about very old American family. My grandparents were very religious, so much so that my great-grandfather could not find anybody to marry. So he put an ad in the newspaper, and it said, looking for a religious Jewish woman. What made her religious? He wrote, she keeps Shabbat and she keeps kosher. And he found my grandmother and they got married. Now, suffice it to say that when my grandmother passed away, I was going through some pictures with my aunts, and I noticed that Bubby suddenly had a wig drawn on her, and her collarbone came up, and her hemline went down, and kippot were drawn in places that there never were. And I said, who in the world is doctoring these pictures? And then I realized it's very interesting. There's a revision of history that's happening where we've decided to deviate, yes, and now we're looking at our grandparents and saying, we thought they were religious, but they don't fit the religious standards of today. So either we have to accept and say we're making things up, and they were perfectly fine, and we've deviated, or what we have to do is we have to go back in time and doctor our history to match up. Not only is it a lie, but it's very dangerous, because then what we create is a box that is so narrow that the slightest deviation suddenly makes you an outcast. Suddenly you are no longer socially acceptable. You have lost your friends, your family, your community. I'm talking about mental health. So many of the people that I deal with, not here in San Diego, but who are what they would consider on the fringe of communities, would never be fringe if the community didn't keep making the boxes smaller and smaller. They would just be people. Yeah, maybe they would be a little more different and a little more colorful, and it didn't matter. Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a box, he gave us parameters. He didn't ask us to cut those parameters more and more, so much so that they suffocate everybody and anybody inside. That's really dangerous.